Okay, folks, it's your dude here once again from What You Think, coming to find out what you think. And I got one here for you today from the Associated Press. Oregon High Court says 10 GOP state senators who staged long-term walkout can't run for re-election. The Oregon Supreme Court said Thursday that 10 Republican state senators who staged a record-long walkout last year to stall bills on abortion, transgender care, and gun rights cannot run for re-election. The decision upholds the Secretary of State's decision to disqualify the senators from the ballot under a voter-approved measure aimed at stopping such boycotts. Measure 113, passed by voters in 2022, amended the state constitution to bar lawmakers from re-election if they have more than 10 unexcused absences. Last year's boycott lasted 6 weeks, the longest in state history, and paralyzed the state legislative session, stalling hundreds of bills. Senators Tim Kaine, Daniel Bonham, Susan Weber, Dennis Lithium, and Lynn Findley. They were among the 10 GOP senators who racked up more than 10 absences. We obviously disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling, said Kaine, the Senate Minority Leader, but more importantly, we are deeply disturbed by the chilling impact this decision will have to crush dissent. Democratic Senate President Rod Wagner welcomed the decision. Today's ruling by the Oregon Supreme Court means that the legislators and the public now know how Measure 13 will be applied, and that is good for our state, he said in a statement. Political advocacy groups that backed Measure 113 had similar reactions. Walkouts allow a relatively small number of lawmakers to nullify the will of the majority, and that is to the detriment of our democracy. Alejandro Curral, Executive Director of the Oregon Center for Public Policy, said in an emailed statement. During oral arguments before the Oregon Supreme Court in December, attorneys for the senators and the state wrestled over the grammar and syntax of the language that was added to the state constitution after Measure 113 was approved by voters. The amendment says a lawmaker is not allowed to run for the term following the election after the member's current term is completed. The debate was over when that ineligibility kicks in. If a senator's term ends on January 2025, they will typically seek re-election November 2024. The election after the member's current term is completed would not be until November 2028, the Republican senators argued, so they could not run for re-election this year and then hold office for another term before becoming ineligible. The court disagreed, saying that while the language of the amendment was ambiguous, the information provided to voters in the ballot title and the explanatory statement made clear that the intent was to bar truant lawmakers from holding office in the next term. Those materials expressly and uniformly informed voters that the amendment would apply to a legislator's immediate next term of office, indicating that the voters so understood and intended that meaning. The justice wrote, the senator's lawsuit was filed against Secretary of State LaVon Griffin-Valade, who last August said the boycotting senators were disqualified from seeking re-election. She directed her office's elections divisions to implement an administrative rule based on her stance. All parties in the suit had sought clarity on the issue before the March 2024 filing deadline for candidates who want to run in this year's election. Kaine, the Senate Minority Leader, said he didn't plan to appeal the decision or join a separate federal lawsuit filed by 3 Republican senators challenging their disqualification from the ballot. A federal judge in December ruled against the 3 lawmakers, and they have appealed the decision to the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. He conceded that the significant turnover of Republican senators would be challenging, but he wasn't concerned. And despite being barred from re-election, he said he wouldn't advise Republicans against lengthy walkouts in the future. I think legislators need to stand on the principles that they believe in, and if you believe in it enough to make the sacrifice, then you most certainly should, he told reporters on Thursday. Kaine added that he wasn't sure what he'll do after the next 2024 term ends. Who knows if this is a pause in public service for me and others, or if it's the end of the road and a new beginning for something else, he said. The 2023 walkout paralyzed the legislature for weeks and only ended after Republicans forced concessions from Democrats on a sweeping bill related to expanding access to abortion and transgender health care, and another measure regarding the manufacture and transfer of undetectable firearms, known as ghost guns. Oregon voters approved Measure 113 by a wide margin, following Republican walkouts in the legislature in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Okay, folks, that's all I have for you on this one, but you'll have to let me know what you think about this Bill 113 in Oregon. Is it fair? Is it a good bill? Does it protect the people from governments that don't want to do their job, who want to bicker and fight when we hired them to come together and get us the best outcome possible? So chop it up in the comment section. Let me know what you think. And before I let you go, I'll read you 2 comments from Oregon residents, one from each side of the spectrum. The first is from Erica Willis, and she says, Oregon resident here, we know exactly what we're voting on this measure, and I am so pleased to have our highest state court affirm what the majority in this state wants. Somehow, in this country, a minority seems to think they can rule. What do you think about that, folks? Is she right? Does the minority believe that they can rule over the majority in this country? Is that a democracy? Is that even fair? And this next guy has a weird name, so I'll just call him S. Frank with a K at the end. I know, but that's how he spells it. And it reads, we obviously disagree with the Supreme Court's ruling, but more importantly, we are deeply disturbed by the chilling impact this decision will have to crush dissent, said Knop, the chamber's Republican minority leader. So he quotes this guy, Knop, and then he comes back and says, dissent is fine. Debate is fine, but holding up the people's business is not fine. If you don't like the legislation, vote no, that's fine too. So folks, you'll have to let me know what you think about this article. Chop it up in the comment section. And as always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay prayed up, and keep pushing forward. This is that dude from What You Think, coming to find out what you think.